How's it going, guys? Welcome to TheBlueShifting and welcome to kind of a sad day, the wrap party for Katawa Shoujo. Man, it was shorter than I thought it was going to be, but we are finally here. I am so happy to be here with you guys. I'm so happy to be able to share this with you and to, sadly have to see the end to yet another good series, but thankfully I'm not alone. Tonight I have a wonderful friend from the Discord channel with us tonight named John. And I just realized I was mic'd, I muted myself with John and Access, so even though I've already started and introduced him, he's barely hearing this for the first time. So how you doing, John?
I'm doing well. I was just about to message you now. I think you muted yourself.
The thing is, on the stream I wasn't muted, but you were muted, unfortunately. So I like not to you, but me to you. So we should be good now, though. Oh gosh.
Fine.
Anyway, so how have you been tonight? I thank you so much. You said recently that you joined the channel, that you joined the Discord fairly recently. I'm fixing audio levels, by the way. So yeah, like how long have you been part of the Discord channel?
I've only been, I think the Discord channel maybe about going on maybe a month or 3 weeks now. I found your channel pretty recently. I was searching far and wide for some good Fata Morgana Let's Plays. And
nice.
I also started watching your Katawa Shoujo.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and finding the channel. Like, it's funny because like I always feel like really weird when I actually find out people watch my stuff. Like, just because I really started this, I say it all the time, but I started this as a way because like I didn't know anyone else who liked visual novels, and the few YouTubers I had found that played them had stopped playing them, probably because they don't make you any money or anything. But I decided, like, screw it, I want to play these things, I want to talk about them with people, so I'll just make videos, and it really became something I loved, and it turns out there's a good number of people out there, so I'm glad you found it. I hope I can keep you around, but ultimately, it's just wonderful to have you tonight. And also keep in mind, everybody who's listening, I will be watching chat. There is a delay. Hey, Just Ryu, I saw you wave. But if you're not here live and you're watching this in post, welcome anyway. It's always a pleasure having you here. And remember, this will be spoiler filled, as if you can't guess by the pictures that are going across the screen. This will not be shy in any way. So if you haven't played the game in its fullest, or at least not to a point where you are content learning things about the characters that you might not have played through, you probably should leave now and come back when you have, because there's no excuse. This game is free, and it's beautiful, and it's incredible, and if you haven't played it, you need to stop and you need to play it, because like it's not even like something you have to buy.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's also not even that long, all things considered.
Yeah, but it's kind of got that. It's got that good balance where it's like it's long enough, where you really feel like you get to immerse yourself with the characters, and you feel like you go on a journey with each one. But it also isn't lingering too long. And I wouldn't say that long videos like linger too long. I mean, I Love Steins Gate are fantastic, and they're like 50-hour experiences each.
Yeah. It depends on the VM itself, I think, like, as long as the writing is suited to a long type of story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll kick things off in just a second, however, because I have to take this opportunity. You guys might have noticed I've been gone for a couple days. I got sick earlier this week, and then I had some other stuff come through, and I decided to continue taking a break to start working on some projects. So I have a reveal I want to make real quick, and I have an announcement. I'm going to jump into the topic right after this, so I'm going to make this as fast as I can. First off is, it's going to be something you see on the end card. You'll probably see it as a banner on my channel too, if I can make it look good for that, because I'm really excited about this. I have always been a fan of art. I think it's something I'm terrible at, like Hisao, but I also really admire, like Hisao. Man, we have a lot in common, it turns out. So I've always been a big fan of the idea of having art, specifically art that reflects me, reflects my channel, reflects my interests, and something that I hope can be, it's inspiring to me, and I'm hoping it can continue to inspire me as I go through. I commissioned a friend of mine. He's really great. I've been a fan of his for a while, actually. And I totally forgot that the one thing I hadn't done to prepare for this was bring up his name. But so I've been working with, oh gosh, where is it? Bernardo da Costa. He is an artist, I believe in Brazil. and he's professional. Like, he does it like really, he works really, really hard, and he's done some fantastic works. I'm going to start leaving links in all my videos because he was the one I ended up commissioning for channel art. Many of you were around a while ago. I did a survey trying to help thin out some of the ideas I wanted for some official channel art, beyond just my caricature of a main character from a book I've been writing. And I finally got it. Now, it's interesting because at the time I was trying to decide if I want to stick with my character as my avatar, a girl character from that same series as my avatar, or myself. Turned out I didn't want to have to decide, so I made all three. So here is the first reveal of the art that will represent the channel. It'll be on the end card of every video now until I find something equally fun. This is it. As you can see, it is Muffled themed because it has to be. Jojo, that's the only downside. I don't know if unless you're watching the live stream out the corner of your eye, you won't be able to see this until the end. But it's beautiful. Like, it brings a tear to my eye just thinking about it. It's so good. I've always loved art, and I've never seen myself in a caricature before, like as me. And so seeing it, it's part of the weirdest thing I've ever done, and it was totally worth it. Like, I'm in love with this picture. So if you want to see this work or many others like it, I will make sure to put links in future videos. I also follow him on Twitter, so if you follow my Twitter, he's on there. And I share his stuff if I see it, so if you look there, you can easily find him as well. I believe he'll probably post this on his site as part of his portfolio too. So it should be pretty easy to find. But yeah, this is now official channel art. I think it'll be, I don't know. I'm so vain, but I really love it. And I just love the way he was able to take my character designs and really bring them to life. So thank you. And I hope that you guys enjoy that. And I'll go back to the clips that you came for, because the last thing I want to say is part of this art reveal. I was hoping it was going to come out earlier, but you know, good art takes time. But now that it's come out, I've officially started work on my project, and it's been cringy. So one last thing I want to talk about for the channel is that in the next week or two, I plan to release a compilation of TheBlueShifting destroying the Japanese language. Yes, it's that time at last. We have the highlights that have been collected and scoured through the videos of my many fans. You know who you are, you like sadists who combed through my stuff and found these atrocious attempts at reading Japanese words. And I'm going to put them in a big compilation with some cheesy music, and I'm gonna have like a nice little gift at the end for everybody who got triggered during my mobile playthroughs with certain names that I did not do very well at. And to be fair, I was thinking about it, especially watching it. It's painful now. It hurts. I'm still kind of bad, but oh my gosh, was I bad. So it might be one of a kind, because as we go further on, I'm getting better and better. And so these types of goof ups aren't going to happen as much. So it'll be a glorious gem that'll forever stain my YouTube channel, because if you can't beat them, join them. And when you make a mistake and it's hilarious, you should just own it. And I want to, because it makes me laugh and die at the same time. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it's coming out officially. I really, really hope it'll be next 2 weeks. I've done most of the grunt work already, and so it mostly comes down to editing. It'll be one of my bigger editing projects, however, so we'll see. I've never done something like this before, but I've got some good examples to follow. So anyway, sorry for the rambling. Thank you, John, for your patience, and we will now jump into Katawa Shoujo. So John here is going to be helping me as we talk about Shizune and Shizune's route, and a little bit with Lily. But before we get really started, I want to talk with John a little bit about Hisao. So what did you think about the main character as you played through the game? Like, maybe what was your first impression of him, and then what did you think about him after you'd finished all the other routes?
Yeah, so, people always kind of refer to Katawa Shoujo as kind of an introduction to other types of visual novels.
Is that how you're supposed to say it? Katawa Shoujo?
Oh goodness, I hope so.
I have no idea. Maybe we can add this to the compilation later. Anyway, continue.
Well, now the pressure's on. That Hisao kind of reflects, I don't think he's the worst example of a kind of a blank slate. I do like him, in certain routes. I believe it's Emmy's route. Yes, it is, where he's like joining the science club, and he has a more active role besides the relationships, which I've always liked to see the protagonist develop outside of like the main focus of the routes. And Hisao does a good example of that. Obviously we can identify with Hisao because he's a big reader. So.
Oh yeah. What a
book
bug.
It's like, obviously we kind of like doing that, but yeah, I think he's kind of a bit bland in my own opinion, but I think he suits the novel well, and it's fun to see him grow in different ways through all the routes.
Yeah, it's kind of a necessity for you have two ways you have to roll a protagonist in any game, but visual novels, it's really, really apparent. Because in a good example of contrast would be A Mouth of Love, where Takaru is a very specific type of character. He is kind of a blank slate, but it's not really that pronounced, especially when you start getting to the serious stuff like Alternative. Like, he really has his own personality. He has the way he deals with stuff. And while we get some choice in there, it's not the kind of choices that determine, like, actual action. It's more about the reaction, or to show like hints at whom we're finding the most interesting at that time. So
yeah, I think
God.
It's interesting to see how VNs tackle it. It's like you can either have a blank slate that has like a lot of different options to go in, or you can kind of like give it a more focused personality, but you limit some of the player choice.
Yeah, and so it really depends on the story you're trying to tell. And now one thing I really like about Hisao is, like, at first I kind of found him really, really bland, and I was like, nah, it kind of comes with a dating sim, so I didn't really think much of it. But as I played through, I realized that Hisao's really actually one of the most well-developed MCs I've ever seen. I want to call him, he's the true tabula rasa, the blank slate, where he makes choices, especially in the first, the prologue of the game, where effectively it chooses which path you're going to walk down. Once you get to the festival, you have locked in pretty much where you're going to be going for the rest of the trip. And leading up to that, he really is super, super bland and super blank. But that's because it's like letting you choose. Some people, I think, in the Discord chat and in the comments in some of the videos, they've expressed a dislike of Hisao as a character, mostly because that blank slate feature and the fact that based on the route you play, he sounds and talks and behaves very, very differently. But I was thinking about it in hindsight. Like, at first, I was definitely like, oh yeah, he has like really different kind of flavor based on who he's dating, and often he seems to kind of adopt similar personality traits. And I was like, well, that seems very, main character-esque. But as I went through more and more paths and saw how differently he started behaving, different, like a good example of like stark differences is the way that he behaves on the Shizune route versus the way he behaves on the Rin route. Like, they are completely different people, and that seemed to take it a step further for me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things I was trying to hint at earlier, is I really like how, obviously you get to know each of the girls on their route, but you also get to see how they're affecting Isao and how he changes because of them. Really interesting.
And at first I thought, like, well, that's like, because we sometimes think about that style of main character, and it feels like kind of fake, because you feel like it's just facilitating the story. But I think what the writers of this story did is actually they took that kind of cliche, and I think they enhanced it. Because my belief is that this is a reflection of something I've actually seen in myself. I've had times that have been really, really hard. I don't know if they've been quite the same level. I haven't had my heart try and explode in my chest randomly. But I can understand having a jarring change. Like, a good example from my life is when my parents got divorced. That's not a huge, huge event in the scale of things, but for like a 13-year-old, it was really big. Especially because it was one of those ones that came out of nowhere. We really had no clue that there were problems, and they weren't the kind that facilitate like an emergency breakup of some kind. But it really affected me. I had my first girlfriend at the time, and I ended up giving her the cold shoulder. We kind of broke up without me talking to her about it at all. She just kind of knew I faded away just because I was not in the relationship anymore mentally. And it just kind of fell apart. And to be fair, 13, 14-year-old, of course, I had no clue what I was doing. Relationships are kind of dumb at that point anyway, but like you get the idea.
Yep.
That I mentally was so detached. And then I kind of came back from that, and it took a while. Like from there, I didn't really know who I wanted to be anymore. But I didn't tell until like my junior year of high school when I kind of realized, I was like, hang on. What if I just started doing this because I want to? Because I always felt like, I can't do that. That's not me. But then I kind of hit a point where I was like, well, why can't that be me? And I suddenly changed who I was. And I think that's kind of what Hisao did. He had a traumatic event. He kind of had to blank himself because he didn't know who he was anymore. And then I think it is very human for us to then reach out and to try and gravitate towards personality traits that we didn't really have before, but we've always admired. And so to have Hisao, you know, in this situation, who not only has to go through something traumatic, but then is uprooted and put into a whole new environment, that then he finds something that he admires, it makes perfect sense to me that he would then start to adopt those qualities. And so in a way, Hisao is human in a way that most MCs never get to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like in the very beginning when Hisao, you know, kind of recognizes how detached he was anyway, because like he's like complaining like, oh, none of these peers, you know, there weren't really any significant friendships I had, you know. He's at the hospital scene when he's talking about like how his friends aren't coming to visit him anymore, and he's trying to become, you know, he's thinking about like, well, why aren't my friendships lasting, you know?
Exactly. Oh man, his reflection is so good, and I love how differently he reacts to the letter. The letter is one of the most interesting pivotal moments in each of the paths because it happens around the same time for each one, and he reacts so differently to it each time, and I really liked that. Just a good expression of him as a character. And so, like, while he was my tabula rasa, he was one that had depth to him. So it's almost like seeing a true marriage between the genuine, like, blank slate, like, no personality MC and the Takaru kind of MC. Like, it's kind of a middle ground I love. So kudos to the writers. This is something I hope if I ever were to write a visual novel that was more Datey Sim-like, this is something I'm going to shoot for, I think, because I think it's a good example of good writing for a main character. All right, so yes. I think now's the time we should shift over to and I don't know for sure, is Shizune your favorite girl, or is she the one you want to talk about the most? Because that can be different things.
Oh yeah. It's like if I have nothing to choose a favorite, it'd probably be Lily, but I think there's a lot of interesting things you can say about Shizune. Yeah,
there were a lot of interesting things that came up, even like in the little interactions I had with her in the early game when she was a potential route. People had a lot to say, and they were very polarized about her. So I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are about. So I guess you approached me initially saying you want to talk about her. So I guess what's the most important thing you want to bring up for a conversation about Shizune?
Oh, well, let me start with the question. Did you get all the bad endings as well?
I got at least one, and it was horrible. I knew it was going to be a bad ending too, and so I was like, it's when Misha comes to the bedroom and asks for you to like comfort her. I was like, oh no, you don't do that. And then I clicked the answer I wanted, and I went, and then I stopped and I saved, and I was like, my curiosity was just through the roof. I was like, I have to see what happens if I do this, because I feel like someone's gonna get killed, or I'm going to like implode my entire life. And it was horrible. It was a horrible experience going through that ending. So yeah, I don't think I found every single bad ending. I might go through it, but to be honest, like I don't know, like there's a lot of endings. I'm not sure how to get to them all, so it would take a lot longer to do so.
Well, I would. Well, it sounds like you've already got into Shizune's bad ending, and that's the one I would strongly suggest seeing.
Oh my gosh, it was traumatic for me, let alone anyone else. Especially because it's like it's so sneaky, because it's so similar to like the normal path for like a couple days, like where it's like almost exactly the same, and then it just takes suddenly like a left turn down crazy street, and then it's just like, oh, Shizune's not talking to me anymore. I guess I'll leave. Credits. Oh man.
Because I asked that question because like very early on in this Shizune route, like Lily comes to speak with you. It's like, hey, you need to watch out for Shizune. which I was like, when I was reading, it's like a pretty minor scene, but I was like, what could that mean, you know? I always try to look for like things that seem like they're foreshadowing later on, so they always stick in the back of my mind. And we kind of get a few examples of like, oh yes, Shizune's talking about an art show at one point, and she like confesses that she only entered it in order to win and look at the defeat on other people's faces, which I'm like, that's a really interesting. And I don't know, I find she's clearly very competitive. I just think it's really interesting that I think Shizune, she definitely has a real problem of like not actually wanting to commit fully to like with other people.
Yeah,
like,
I think
she wants to get something out of it.
Yeah, I think honestly, like, it's something I pondered a lot when playing through her route. I'm not gonna lie, and like this is once again be kind of a divided topic. I guess just for you, by the way, we're gonna flash back because remember they're delayed, so it's just for you. Sorry, we're bringing this up now, but he was when we were talking about the MC. Like I think as we were wrapping up, he put a comment. So real quick, he says it depends on how the changes in the personality are done well. If the MC's personality just swings around multiple times, and it would feel weird. But if it's a gradual change with proper build-up and reason, there's no sudden swings to and fro, then it feels realistic. And I think he sounds more... His changes kind of come quickly, but he's consistent. And so I think it works for him. And anyway, so Shizune, okay. I don't know. I think as I played through, I pondered a lot because, like, I have to say, like, I'm not gonna say for sure about like how I feel about a specific character, but like I really enjoyed the Shizune route. Like Shizune route, I liked a lot, and I think there were those little glimpses of her being like kind of crazy, like with her competitiveness. Like it really kind of was taken to the nth degree sometimes, but I feel like I always felt like I had to defend her. And like I held back on my comments a little bit because I didn't want to like kind of tell everyone. I didn't feel like it was the right forum. Today it's the right forum, but like, if you take the fact that like her entire world is without sound, you know, like so she's already inhibited in the way she has to interact with people, even with sign language. Like that is a barrier, and it's brought up all the time that there's a lot of things like nuance or like how like her sarcasm is something that like you never would really get unless you can see the context of the exact way she's signing, kind of like how like a text message that's sarcastic can be really easy to misinterpret.
Definitely.
So she's already got that barrier of where she has a lot of expressiveness, but it's kind of limited in its scope or who can appreciate it, combined with the crazy dad. Oh my gosh, like every time he showed up, I was just like, I just want to leave. He pisses me off. Like, I get he's a crazy fruit bat kind of character, but like, oh my gosh, like, he would be just so hard for me personally to deal with, like, as a real me. And then, definitely. So you take him, plus her deafness, and then you add the fact that, like, for her, competitiveness isn't about... Like, she says she likes seeing the defeat, like you said, but, like, again, it's also not really the win. It's more about, like, the journey to the win. And, like, she likes seeing people rise to the challenge. She likes feeling like they're giving their all, and that she's giving her all. Because when she's lost, like, there's a couple times, I think with the Hanako chess game, like, she lost it, I think the first one. Like, she wasn't mad that she lost. If anything, it made her more excited. Because she likes the challenge and she likes the feeling of like overcoming a barrier and like seeing like people to go from confident to like unsure to defeated. Like it's that process she likes. It's not that she's literally like stomping on the ground, crushing all the ants under her boots and cackling to herself maniacally. It's the journey of the experience, I think, that was more important to her.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
Go ahead.
For the most part, she definitely, enjoys that competitive streak. I think part of it is also like with the way her father acts sometimes, that she doesn't want to be looked down upon. So that manifests into being ultra competitive.
That's a freaking absolutely. Oh my gosh, that man. I feel like I would like. Okay, I'll go into that later. Okay. So one of the things I think I was disappointed about with her route, though, like I'm gonna be brutally honest, is the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of romance in the romance. The way they write it makes it kind of clear to me that there really was some chemistry between them. I felt the chemistry, but I feel like there was so much going on in her journey with Misha, with the sign language, with the trip to visit her family, and with Lily's and the drama with Lily. I feel like her story is so saturated that we kind of miss out. Like, I feel like they ran out of time. Like her route already seems like it's the longest. I don't know if that's true, but it felt like the longest to me. And I think that it kind of was a disservice, because I feel like we didn't get to see as much of them like spending time together that was like bonding, where they would like we heard it was like there were conversations we would hear, but as like when they started officially going out after the was it the Tanaban festival, at that point it really shifts gears into focusing on the Shizune Misha and relationship, and how Hisao was now part of like a triangle that he didn't really anticipate being part of. And that's really good, and there's a lot of stuff there, but we stopped seeing the cool little conversations between Hisao and Shizune unless it was about Misha or about like stuff that was happening. And I felt like that was a bit of a downer, because I feel like there was more to their relationship, and I could feel it, but it wasn't as apparent.
Yep, I kind of agree with that. Shizune's route does seem kind of packed to the brim almost. I do appreciate it in some sense, because we definitely get to see more of like the other characters in her route.
Oh yeah, that is kind of cool.
But it's super cool. But then it also less of the spotlight on Shizune herself.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate little disservice. I guess, what was your favorite moment of her route? Like, was there a particular scene that, like, really sticks out to you as, like, the one that was either the most meaningful or the one that, like, just highlighted to you, like, something you enjoyed?
Yeah, I brought it up earlier, but I just found when she was talking about the art show and the painting she drew, that was just so interesting.
She's very Machiavelli, isn't she?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'm just like, wow, that's such an interesting viewpoint to take on things.
That's one of the benefits. I think almost every character, not all of them, but almost every character had a really interesting philosophical side to them. Like a way they viewed the world that genuinely was different, but it didn't usually have anything to do with their disability. It was just them as a person having a very different view of life, and I love that. It really made me explore lots of ideas I hadn't considered. Okay, but I have to say my favorite thing, it's kind of a part of it, but the ultimate favorite thing is like Hisao learning the sign language. I like how he kept it a secret, because that's totally what I would have done. But I also really loved the Shizune route, because I feel like it's the route where Hisao grows the most. Some of the other routes, he kind of adopts these new personality traits, but then they kind of stay static for him. A good example is actually the Emmy route that I showed on my channel. Like, I feel like after he got physically fit, he just kind of was Hisao who could now run. And he at that point, it was more about the relationship, and there wasn't a whole lot of extra growth. But in the Shizune route, like, we see him like kind of like he starts seeing the enjoyment of becoming responsible, and he starts taking charge more and more. Like, we go from like the beginning where he's trying to like get out of extra work as much as possible, to teaching himself sign language in class and really striving for it because he was determined to learn it and actually succeeding. And then to see him doing things like, there's a moment where he runs into who was it? He runs into somebody. I think it was either Rin or Emmy. I'm not quite sure. It was a tiny little scene where like it talks about how like he stops himself from berating them for being out of class when they were supposed to be in the classroom. And I was
actually, I think that was Kenji.
Oh yeah. Okay, Kenji. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Oh yeah, because that's when he takes off his glasses. Okay, yeah. You're right about that. But like as I read that line, I was like, wow, you've really taken a 180 here, where he's really started to be like dependable and like I don't know, like he still obviously wasn't too strict on the rules because he was willing to like back off, but his instinct was becoming more of like, I'm a part of the school and I have this responsibility. And I think that while Shizune was a good example of that, I don't think I feel like that was something he brought out in himself. And so like, I felt like he had a lot of growth during this trip. And at the end, he not only was able to find the resolution to the emotional like relationships, but he also found a resolution where at the end of the story, I felt like he had his feet planted, because this is the one where he's like, I'm going to college, and he like worked hard, and he was like, I know what I'm gonna do with myself, and I'm gonna push forward with this, and I'm gonna like make this a part of my life. And while there's echoes of that in the other routes, this was the one he was like, this is me, and I'm gonna do it, and I loved it.
Yeah, this route definitely felt more like you're watching, kind of like two people live their life rather than watching a relationship itself grow.
Yeah.
And just watching adventures of Shizune and Isao.
I have to admit, like, if there's a journey in this story where I felt like the most connection with Isao, like, as far as like what I've gone through and where I am now, it actually is in this route. Like, because I've gone through that realization of like, yeah, if I want to do something, I gotta do it myself, and like I had to kind of become something. And so personally, I have a lot of resonance with that version of Hisao, so that's probably why I really like it. But it's really good, and I think it's a very natural thing for people to go through. Hopefully, I mean, it sucks when people get stuck thinking that they have to be the way they are because that's the way they are. Like,
right.
It's a trap, because a lot of times we can take our life in our own hands. It just comes down to whether or not we want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So is there anything else about the Shizune route that in particular you want to talk about? I want to make sure, because I'm talking a lot, so I want to make sure I give you, I want to hear everything you've got to say about this.
I think we covered most of the interesting points. I just think Shizune is a very different character compared to most of them other routes, so I just think it's kind of interesting to talk about.
Oh yeah, I guess one last thing I just realized is that like one of the things I heard about Shizune, like she can come off really cruel.
Yes.
I think it mostly is misunderstanding. There are people she definitely is very vicious to, though, like Lily. She's absolutely trying to throw down on her, but like I don't think she actually wishes her ill will. It's just that her competitive side comes out with Lily in ways that's beyond just being competitive or trying to like kind of get a rise out of people to get them to fight back. But most of the time she feels like being direct and aggressive is a way to try and motivate people to be more assertive. And while it can work, it's not the most delicate, but that's just not who she is. She's not a finesse type of talker. She's kind of like a bull in a china shop of your emotions.
That's a good way to put it.
Thank you. All right, so if anyone has any comments, I will happily read them, and we might jump back to Shizune, but otherwise, I think we've got this one kind of buttoned up a bit, so I'd like to move on to Lily, who you said was probably your favorite. Now, for Lily, I'm probably going to be the more controversial on the Lily path, and so I'll have to explain myself when we get there, but I have to say, in general, Lily's is the most like really romantic feeling story. Like maybe it has more of the tropes. I'm not really quite sure if I'd call them that, though. It's just like her.
I would. I definitely think it has some of the tropes, especially like the ending airport scene.
Oh yeah.
Movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you've got some tropes. It has some tropes, but like I don't feel like it uses them as a crutch. Like a lot of times, tropes are often a crutch, and so in this case, I don't know if they're quite that, because there's a lot of good story elements tied to them. But it has the very approachable pattern of like boy meets girl, they start to talk. Boy is impressed by girl. Girl's secretly impressed with boy, but she's good at hiding it. They have the chance meetings. They have the like kind of like a third party that like brings them together in a way. In Hanako, we see that. They have like a get-togethers where like they're in like relaxing clothing and they get drunk. You know, like that's like every anime, I swear. And then like they proceed down the path of relationship. In just like a way that feels so like it feels like I'm reading like a romance novel or watching a romance anime, and so like it's a comfortable story. I'll give it that.
Yes. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about the Liga route, other than it's just nice to see the romance grow over time.
Yeah,
it's not the most complicated, but it's also like,
it's pure,
kind of relaxing. Yeah.
Ooh, relaxing is a good word for it. She's a relaxing character. Like everything is methodical and thoughtful and pristine and proper, and like the whole story feels like that too.
Yeah, she's very thoughtful, and it's almost like geez, I wish I could be that thoughtful sometimes. It's like I am not that good at listen, I work with math all day. I'm not that good at analyzing emotion.
Oh man, it's awesome, and it's interesting though because like you bring that up, and this is the one where I feel like a biggest failing for this story is Hisao. Actually, I think Hisao is super kind of flat. Because he doesn't really take on her mannerisms beyond like being politer maybe than he would be before. But ultimately he spends a lot of his time denying his own thoughts and feelings and being just like obsessed with like not offending her or like saying something wrong or doing something wrong. And while again that does feel very fitting in the trope of the romance, the typical romance story, it also makes him the flattest, and he has the least growth in the Lily story. Because like his entire growth feels like it culminates in the 2 heart attacks he has.
Yes.
Like his first heart attack is the one that triggers their relationship, and it's almost a mistake. Like he didn't mean for it to really launch off into that, but it happened, and he was very eager, of course. But to be fair, I don't know if anyone else would not be eager. But then the second one in the airport, like you said, it's like, oh, it was really sad though. Like the whole like she's leaving, rush to the gate, and then like right before the gate, like in a lot of like American romance movies, he would catch her like right before she got on the plane, kind of a thing. And he kind of did that, except it was more of a like, oh, I can see her, I can finally see her. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad for complaining about it, like, oh, it's standard, but when I was reading it, I was like, make it, like it still works.
It's just like, and it's not like, and like I said, there's criticisms here, but like I'm not saying that it wasn't an enjoyable experience. I really loved some of the motifs. Like my favorite scene was the music box. I really liked the idea of giving somebody who's blind a music box as a present. I thought that was a beautiful gift that was chosen, and I love how it was brought up as part of the finale. Like he woke up in the hospital, and he didn't see her at first. He heard the music box first. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that was a very nice touch.
I also think it's interesting, like, I don't know if you'll agree with this, because I'm kind of curious, because, like, I think the Lily path might be the closest thing this game has to a true ending.
Oh.
I don't know exactly, like, there's really not, it's not meant to be like that. So, like, I don't think it's quite, like, reasonable to say, but she's the only one that had an actual, like, epilogue. Like, the credits rolled and then there was a scene. It was the very typical romance. The story was very, like, it was almost dressed up like a pretty box. Like a present, and like everything right where it should be. The folds perfectly made, almost like Lily made the story herself. You know, it's like it's almost too perfect in some ways. So I wonder if maybe her story was the first one that was written. Maybe it's kind of like, maybe it turned out to be the backbone of the series. I'm not sure, but it felt like because of some of the way that things work, and also some of the art. Like everyone got some really cool art, but Lily got some like the breathtaking, like there's the sweeping shot of her and Hisao hugging in the middle of like the wheat fields and the rolling hills and the glorious sunset. Like it's kind of overwhelmingly pretty. So,
Yeah.
like, it just gives me that feel that it might have been, if there was a true ending, I would probably point to Lily's and say, that's probably what the true ending's supposed to be. But I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me on that one.
I think the only other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't brought up is I do completely agree that Isao was like not meaning his feelings. Got a little bland at times, but I do like the switch at the end where it's like, you know, Lily's going away and she's the one not recognizing her own feelings for Hisao. And it was like Lily's turn to be stubborn. And
Yeah.
it's like Hisao getting hurt again for her to recognize that.
Yeah, it's kind of the girl out of pain in these. Like, these are not emotionally like happy stories. Like, I got teary through I think 3 of the 5. Like, there's a point in 3 of the 5 where I genuinely was like wanting to like weep a little bit. I'm trying to remember if Lily was one. I definitely got close because Lily, like, when she was like leaving and like he was just kind of wallowing in misery. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. I felt like I was frustrated. It was a frustrated type of like emotion for me, where I was just like, "You guys are idiots." I bet you if I could watch my own life as a movie, though, I'd be wanting to scream at myself all the time. I'd be like, "You're so stupid!" So it kind of fits.
What are you doing?
Oh my gosh, high school was a mess. Like, especially when it came to like romance stuff. I definitely like went on dates and stuff, but I was oblivious. Like, looking back now, I was just like, man, there were some opportunities that I wanted that I never, like, if I just done something, I could have like actually made happen, or like I wish I could have like done stuff differently. Like, not that I really would want to change it, but like that's the Lily path. It's like,
yeah,
like it's Esau like on like the path of destruction that we all end up going on with like our first or second girlfriend or boyfriend, but he ended up pulling off like a Hail Mary and figuring it out in the end, unlike most of us.
Lesson learned: if relationship is struggling, have a heart attack.
Have a heart attack. It fixes everything. Just don't die. That's the only trick. All right. So I'm not sure if I have any other thoughts. I guess you mentioned that Lily was. Did you say that Lily was your favorite route? Like, is it mostly just because of what, like, the reason we've been talking about, or was there another thing that stuck out to you for it?
I still think Shizune is my favorite route. I just think like if I were to hang out with any of the girls, I would choose Lily.
She is the most stable. I have to admit, she definitely would like be the one that would be she's always pleasant to be around, and I can't say that for everyone else.
It's just like you're talking to Rin, and you're just like, "What are you talking about, Rin?"
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a lot to say about Rin when we get there. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
All right, so everyone, unless things have changed, John told me that he would probably like to bow out at this point. It's getting late wherever you are, so I appreciate you coming by. Are there any other passing thoughts you want to say about the series as a whole? That maybe what you liked about it, or like whether or not like people should play it?
Yeah, I definitely think like you said, it's free, and it's a really great introduction to visual novels. I'm not even I play a lot of visual novels. I mostly play like mystery and horror kind of visual novels for the most part.
I end up doing that too.
I'm looking forward to the Umineko Let's Play.
They're coming. I already have them. It's just trying to figure out when to put them in the schedule, because like I tend to get things that I get excited about, and so it's like trying to figure out what I'm most excited about. I luckily don't have a lack of material, so we'll be doing this for a while yet.
Yeah. I just encourage. I think most people here have either watched you play it or played it themselves, but like, that's how I got a lot of my friends into visual novels in the first place, was with this game. I think I played it pretty early when it came out. I kind of skimmed through Shizune's route before this live stream, so I could talk about something.
Oh, nice! Thank you.
Totally inept, but I played this game years ago, and like I said, like we're talking about minor things, and I can still remember it. So it's definitely
that's very impressive for like any
left
story.
Some impact.
Oh yeah.
So
Joshua says he's glad to hear your thoughts, and thanks you for joining us, and I thank you too. I think if there's one thing about it that I like, kind of capstone to your thoughts, is that like we have good opportunities as visual novel enjoyers because it is very niche. There's not a whole lot of people who read them or watch them, especially like in Western countries. But Doki Doki Literature Club and Katawa Shoujo are the doorbusters. Like, they're so good and impactful, and they're free. It's like, it's like if you're gonna, like, I don't know, you get like those people who knock on your door and want to talk about religion. Like, I almost kind of like feel like we kind of need, like, it's like this is the way you do that with visual novels. Be like, hey, slide in the DMs. It's like, hey, you want to watch something, enjoy something really fun? Here you go. Of course, the Katawa Shoujo, you gotta remind them, if you don't want the H stuff, you got to click the button in the options. Make sure you tell them about that in case they're a little more... that could be if it's their first time, it might be a little rough for some people.
Yes. I love how, like, a lot of people perceive visual novels as H stuff, and, like, we talked about this for almost an hour now. Like, we never even brought up any of that.
I know, it's like, but it's like, there's so much good stuff in it, and they're like, was there H stuff? You're like, well, yeah, but it's like such a small part of all of this that's so good about it. All right, anyway, thank you so much, John. I appreciate you coming by, and of course, if any future times, if you want to, like, chip in, or when I do other rap parties, I'd love to have you on again. It's been a pleasure.
All right. I think I might join you on the YouTube chat side.
Thank you. That'd be awesome. You could do bounce back and forth with just for you. But thank you again, and I will hear from you in a little bit, I hope.
Yes. See you around.
Bye. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening so far. Now, it's going to be a bit more of a solo act for me, but that is perfectly good. I've got a lot to say, of course, because, like he said, we've also been doing this for an hour. It feels like I've been doing it for 10 minutes. These, like, my channel has so many long videos. Like, it's just kind of the way things go. All right, so we talked about Lily, we talked about Shizune. I'm going to start going through the next three. They probably go a little faster since it's just me and my thoughts, but that's perfectly fine. I'll be keeping an eye on chat, but remember, you got that delay, guys, so it might take me a bit to come back to it. Hopefully I can get I need to have a combination of a stronger computer and a better internet connection. If I can ever get those two things, we'll be golden. We can do this, like, practically live, but until then, we'll have to figure it out. Oh, sorry. Now, I didn't mention this before. I think I should have, but I was just really excited to jump into this. The order I'm going in these, talking about the characters, are actually the order I completed their stories in. It's the way I wrote it out in my notes, the way I'm keeping it. So, like, you should know, I finished the route for Shizune, Lily, and now we're going to talk about Hanako, Emi, and then Rin. So you guys were following with me for Rin, and I'll explain for Emi. So Rin was the last one. I actually just finished her story early today, but we're going to go into a little bit more. So let's talk about Hanako. Oh my goodness, Hanako. Okay. If there were one of the paths where I was the most emotionally invested, it was absolutely Hanako's story. There's something, like, absolutely precious about her character, and so human, but so, like, alien at the same time. And, like, while Rin is a bit more, like, unapproachable in some of the ways she is, Hanako is actually something, like, she's, like, precious, which was actually one of the cool things I really liked, where, like, her bad ending and the fault that Hisao has is when he sees her as precious and needing protection all the time, that she needed to be sheltered and coddled and cared for. Because, like, it's so human, and I think all of us felt like that especially when we start to get to know her. We were like, oh my gosh, this poor girl, like, I just want, like, her smile is precious. It really is too, by the way. Whoever drew her also made her smile just like a golden 10 billion watt smile. And it's like, you wanted to do everything you could to keep her smiling and never make her sad. But that also was her ultimate, like, failing and limitation, was that she saw herself as super fragile, and it was reinforced by the way everyone treated her. And so I love how her turnaround in her story really comes from her friendship with Hisao, but through the friendship with Hisao, coming to this realization that she wanted to be something more, and that she didn't want to be limited by herself and her views. Just you saying, from what you remember, Hanako's are the most surprising for me, pleasantly surprising. Yeah, she was. I kind of had a feeling she would be one of the ones I would be the more interested in, just because I've always kind of had like, it's interesting. I have a soft spot for two types of girls, and they tend to be polar opposites of each other. both in dating and just like in friendship. I either am really drawn to very shy girls who are very like kind of like humble and very like kind of drawn into themselves, because I like to listen and I like to be there, and I've often found that the quieter girls tend to have a lot to say once you get them talking, and they can often have the more meaningful like experiences. Like, it's not just girls, it's also, I think it's also guys, but my experience has mostly been with girls, where like a lot of times there can be a level of fickleness for a lot of people. Like, we all put on faces, we all put on a show for each other, and that's fine, that's human. But people who are shy don't really know how to do that. It just doesn't feel, at least it doesn't feel like it, because they tend to be so genuine. And I love that. I love that so much. But then the other type of girl I'm really into are the girls who are very like assertive, and I don't know about cruel, but like, or even if it needs to be dominating per se, but more of just like go-getter. Like somebody who has drive and vision, somebody who's like willing to go and do what they need to do and get things done. And like, I feel like that's what Hanako was, and she's on that side of like being so quiet and so like pulled in. John said, Hanako was your first route and you felt super guilty playing Lily. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I did the other way, where I played through Lily first, because like there's definitely implications in the Lily story that Hanako has a crush on you. Like, after like you confess to Lily and she confesses to you, you kind of like have to talk to Hanako about it, and Hanako like wants to talk to Lily like one-on-one. Like, I think it's because like Lily knew like Hanako like had a thing for Hisao, and like that might have been part of why she was hesitant to start things off with him, because she would feel guilty about like sniping her, like Hanako's like man. But like obviously Hanako was able to handle it okay in that story. Which, by the way, one of the strengths of this is like showing how like all the girls have their challenges, and they keep they keep consistent. So like when you play the route of one girl, you can see in the background, especially like the kind of the pairing, like their friend, you're still seeing them go through stuff. Like for Hanako on the Lily route, you see her have trouble on her birthday and you try and help her out. But because you're not like really becoming close to them, it's very superficial, and yet they still manage to make progress. Like Hanako's a great example where when you're bonding with Lily, that's when Hanako kind of wakes up and decides, I need to do something for myself, and so she joins newspaper club. You know, like she still progresses, she still becomes a better person, even in the background, and that's really cool. And Hanako's journey is the best because of that, because she goes so far, and she like moves through something so terrible and ends up like kind of surfacing in a way that's just really impactful. And I have one more positive thing to say, and then I have to say kind of like the sad thing, because her story was probably the one I felt had the least flaws. Like, there wasn't really much more I wanted out of that story, because it felt like it covered the bases really, really well, especially for her character and for who she was. I have to say though, I think she's the cutest. Not only like her visuals, like just the way she is, her mannerisms, her hair, adorable, every sense of the word. Like, absolutely, hands down, probably the cutest in my opinion. Especially when you see her civilian clothes. Oh my gosh, that girl's got style. Oh, she knows how to dress, and it's like I remember seeing the first, especially the little like the beanie hat. Like, most people wearing that would look silly. She looks amazing. I was like, I saw her for the first time with that, and I was like, wow, she's really cute. I think I said that like out loud when I was playing it, even though no one was there. I do that all the time, by the way. Like, you guys think it's kind of funny how I can talk so much during a visual novel? It's because like I do that by myself. I'm so weird. So Hanako, I really like Hanako's story just in general, and the ending is super moving and powerful. Now, downsides, if there is a downside, it wasn't like it was bad storytelling, but it was really hard to watch like her and Hisao have their first like really intimate get together. Like, not the showing of scars, but like the real intimate one, where Hanako like effectively did it just because she wanted Hisao to be happy. Oh, I hated that, because like it was wrong. It was so wrong, but like that was part of the story. It's like, and like they addressed it and it was okay in the end, but like it just made me feel so gross inside. Very similar to like the bad ending on Shizune with Misha, when like Misha like kind of throws herself at you, if you go down that route, like the whole thing just feels gross. Like, not because it's not it's because the emotions are just so wrong. And with Hanako, like, it was one of those ones where I was torn because like I was really a big fan of them getting together, but then like realizing like the reasons why it happened really messed my mind up a little bit. And I was very, very distraught personally. Like sitting at the computer, I was very emotionally like compromised by that. So that was really, really tough to see. But everything else about her route was really, really good. And like I said, that was tough to see because it was so good. Sadly, I doubt that me as a person would be able to get along with her. I'd really want to. Like, I'd be the kind of person who would really want to be around her. But like, I displayed it so perfectly when I was doing the first part. Cause like, I really enjoyed talking to her in the library scene. And then there's a scene where you can get up and talk to her in the classroom. And I didn't. And the reasons why I didn't, I explained, saying that I was worried that I would like scare her. And that's absolutely what would actually happen. And so I'm really disappointed because like I would have missed out as a person. I absolutely would have missed out on an opportunity to get to know Hanako better. And I worry that I've actually done that in the past. Like, who are the people who I, on a whim, decided not to chat with who could have been lifelong friends? Gave me a lot to think about. So, all in all, probably one of my favorite routes, but I definitely feel like I would have been... I feel like watching Hisao was like watching another person on that route because I don't know if I could have been that person. And you know, that's what visual novels is about. They're about being yourself and feeling like you can be a part of the story. So, it makes me kind of sad to realize that, but it's really probably true. Alright, now for the big one. The one that we spent the most time with. So it means I'll probably talk about it the least just because you heard all my thoughts if you watched the series. Emmy! Oh, Emmy. Emmy's adventure is the perfect word for her path. Like, what a trip. It's the best way to summarize her whole relationship. I love the pacing and characterization. Like, I liked her as a person. I feel like she had a lot of depth right from the beginning, and that stuck with me through the whole thing. I liked how she wasn't hiding the story about her like dad passing away out of some kind of twisted like, oh, something truly terrible happened and that's why I don't talk about it. It was terrible. Like, a death like that in itself is terrible to go through. And I like how there wasn't some massive twist. I feel like a lot of movies or anime try and really put a big like twist on it to really kind of pound a message home. And sometimes like way too hard. Emmy's wasn't that. The pounding came from, well, there was several kinds of pounding. The pounding of the story came primarily from her reaction and her way of dealing with stress and her way of trying to cope. Like, the issue wasn't that her dad died. The issue was how she didn't want to be vulnerable anymore. And that's a very real problem and concern for a lot of people. So it's very humanizing and very real. A little too real sometimes, actually. Like, the problem with her story for me was how much it reflected actual relationships I've had. Like, maybe not in actual like step and step. Like, I've never dated somebody with missing legs, and I've never dated somebody who had a father pass away. But the feeling and emotions that are there and the personality that she had are so much in line with actual people, and specifically one person, my first real girlfriend. I say real girlfriend because it was the first one I was as invested in as I could possibly be, and it wasn't like kind of a whim thing where I was just trying it out and seeing if things would work out. Like, I knew it would, I really wanted to work out from the get-go. I'd known her for 4 years before we ended up going out. And I talked about that, like how the person I was dating at the time had such a level of determination and drive that they were willing to put themselves out there and to like do things because they wanted to. Like, remember I talked about like the two types of girls that I tended to be drawn to were either the shy ones or the like the driven and the like ambitious. That's what she was. She was ambitious. She never would back down. She'd always work hard. She'd always push herself, and she always achieved so much. And I found it so inspirational. And she was cute and everything. Like, it just all was a perfect mesh. And kind of like what happened with Emmy is like that personality ended up becoming one of her greatest fallbacks, because relationships were often something that she viewed as a weakness or something that she was developing too much of a crutch for her life. It was what led to a bad breakup that I was there for. And that breakup and the subsequent me being the shoulder to lean on became the foundation of what ended up becoming our real relationship. But even then, like, I think we ultimately broke up because I think that she felt like while she cared a lot about me, that her life goals weren't in line with mine anymore. And she beat it to the punch. She didn't want it to be like a drawn out thing. She just wanted to break it off as soon as she like felt that that was the point. And so it was so real for me to kind of see the similar feelings. So I'm reading some comments real quick. Yeah, just you're saying like it doesn't really bother you whether you feel like the MC or not. You just want to observe. I agree with you honestly, like in a lot of ways. Like when I was reading with your Takaru, like maybe in Extra it kind of bothered me because Takaru I felt like was overtly violent, more violent than he needed to be. But I quickly like kind of saw that it was more in jest than anything else. But if you haven't noticed, which I'm sure you have, is I'm very empathetic and I really put myself in the shoes of characters. Even if they're not meant to be characters that you like project yourself onto, I do all the time. I can even remember like when I was younger, I'd read Harry Potter. And I would, in my head, imagine that I was like a fourth friend. Like there was Ron, Hermione, Harry, and me just kind of on the side. Like not saying anything, but being a part of all the adventure. Like that's always been how I read stories. And visual novels really can make it easy to be in the shoes of the characters. Like a good story can really get me emotionally invested easily, and I love it. So whether or not the MC is meant to be like someone you relate with, I always do. And so like whenever I do dating sims, I often end up saying to myself like, who would I actually want to date, or who would I actually want to spend my time with if this were real? And so I really like, that's part of why I do these deep dives into it. So I guess long story short, Emmy, she's almost too real for me in a lot of ways. I don't think I've never quite achieved the level of experimentation that she has. Oh gosh, those scenes! I had to cut out so much of like the full blown scenes, and I to be fair, Emmy has a lot more of those scenes than anybody else. So I had to do lots of fun editing with coconuts in her stories, but that was fun. It was fun bringing the coconuts back. That's an old staple from Sunrider, or is it Sun? Yeah, it's Sunrider, the Sunrider series. So it was fun bringing those back, and I loved them. Like I said, I've said it before, just how like H scenes aren't a problem for me. It's when the H scenes are the focus that's a problem for me. Like if the story is all about the H scenes, like a lot of the Sakura games that are on Steam, then no, like I don't want that. That's just pointless because it's all about the H stuff. But H scenes can enhance a romance if it's done right, and I think Katawa Shoujo does it right, even in the Emmy route, which is the one that's most flagrant. All right, so I changed the positions. It's like we're running long, so I have a few more things I want to talk about, and then I'll summarize, and then I think we'll probably be done. I'll also bring up my the custom art again, so you guys can look at it, and I'll talk about that a little bit more because just for you asked a few questions about that, so we'll get to it eventually. So finally, Rin. Now, Rin was interesting because WoW Classic came out while I was supposed to be doing Rin's path, and so I definitely pushed it a little later than I should have. But I finished it this morning, and I gotta tell you, man, if Lily was the, quote, true ending for this series, then Rin's was the love letter from the writer to the reader. It's really interesting because there's so much more to her story that's just like it's hard to describe. Like there's a soccer joke. Yeah, you can tell. Like I found those things like early on in my experience of visual novels, and yeah, I was not a fan. So the issues that we're faced with Rin are some of the most alien and yet some of the most directly relatable, and it's really kind of freaky how that works. One of the things I really liked is that for both the characters, this is one of the paths where like you really like both characters have to confront their condition. Like Rin's kind of already done that, so you don't see it a whole lot, but I mean, she has so much trouble with her clothing. or at the festival, like it has a moment where she has to talk about her period, where her period starts, and she has to go find help. Like that's something like, can you imagine how mortifying that would normally have to that would feel if you suddenly had to have help with something like that? But that's just her life, and like, but like it was something that Hisao had to confront, and we had to confront, and I think that was really important, and that was one of the things that I felt like kind of got sidelined in a lot of the other paths for good reasons, but it was nice to see it. And also, like, he also had a few times where his heart clenched up. Now, he didn't really have any ultimate issues during the Rin route, but, like, at least we kind of knew it was there. And I feel like it was also the first time we saw him, like, really, like, deal with it. I think in Shizune's, he also dealt with it, and in Emi's, he did. In Shizune's, he kind of just grew and kind of accepted, like, you know what, it's a part of me, and I'm going to have to just deal with it, and I'm going to make the most of it. In Emmy's, he actually like physically like worked out to the point where he was probably going to be pretty safe for the rest of his life if he kept up being active, and that's really good. In Rin's path, nothing changed. He still stayed really delicate, but he also didn't ignore it. He acknowledged it and kind of came to terms with it, and he had a good cry about it, and I loved that. I felt like that showed a lot of characterization, because like in all the series, I feel like Hisao very rarely actually cried, even when he felt terrible. But the Rin route he did. So that says a lot about how like the changes he went through in that story. Now, while for me, Hisao is really hard to relate with in this path, it is the best dissection of the condition that he went through and the toll something like that would have on a person. We get a lot of good insight into like what his thinking process is like, and we really get to kind of feel like we're put into his shoes. It's kind of like we were talking about before, like this is the Hisao where I feel like he's the most Hisao. Like, we're really kind of see things from his perspective, and like the effects of his condition last through the entire thing. And like while he comes to personal peace with it, it's still something that like he has to work with for the whole series. Alright, just for you, fine. I'll try and be more creative about my jabs in the future. I just honestly, like, I don't even... What was that one I played? It was like, something romance or, like, true romance or something. I'm not even that familiar with a whole lot beyond the soccer games. Like, that's probably my biggest problem. Is like, I don't look for those things, so I'm not sure what some of them are. Honey Pop? That's not really a visual novel though, but it's kind of in the same lines. It's just like it's Candy Crush but with H stuff. So yeah. Anyway, moving on with Rin. Good grief, I'm getting distracted here. Rin as a person is really unapproachable. Like, that's the way she's supposed to be, and it's because I loved the expression that she has about how it's because she really just doesn't know what words to use. It's not that she's like trying to be weird or edgy, which is kind of what my first impression of her was. It's that she literally just speaks the way she thinks, and like no one else really seems to be able to keep up with her like that. And that is really hard. There's a lot of personal stuff with Rin's story, but like it's a little too personal to really go into the details of. But suffice it to say that it kind of gave me a good perspective on what it might be like to be in a world where communication is difficult on the fundamental level. There are people in my life whom that is a very real problem. And so it kind of woke me up to that and to think about that. And I really think that Rin's story is going to enact the most change in me as a person. Because first off, I think I have a better appreciation of how, like, just because someone doesn't talk well doesn't mean that it's because they're being, like, they're not trying to be, it's like, at first I thought Rin was just trying to be difficult. Oh, hey, Pat Keela, it's good seeing you. Yeah, but Pat, if you are, thanks for the encouragement, and like download this game. Like, I think the link is even in the description of this video, and if not, it's in all the other videos. It's free. You can download it, you can play through it yourself, but once again, it has H scenes in it. You can deactivate them and they'll like tone them down. I don't really know exactly what they'll do, but I know it'll probably keep the worst of it out or summarize it. So if you're not into that, don't worry about it, but like, there's no reason why you shouldn't get this game. It's free to download and it's awesome. So thank you. And good seeing you, man. It's been a while. We need to catch up more. But so Rin's kind of opened my eyes a bit to how I should, or how I think about people communicating. And then the second aspect of it that really kind of caught me off guard and brought me into it was the fact that sometimes people just can't be understood. I've always felt like I've been good at being able to listen and understand people. I even considered a career in psychology for a while. I found out it wouldn't be a good fit for me personally, but it shows the level of empathy I do have with other people, and how I feel like I could use that to connect to people. I don't think I could have connected with Rin. I feel like it's interesting because even in her path, like, they end up together, but they're still so distant. And like Hisao talks about that repeatedly, and I felt like that too. Like, I don't feel like I understand the character Rin, and yet at the same time, that's part of what makes her so special, and what makes her worth being around. Because she makes me think about the world differently. I live in a world right now that's really crazy. I have my family. I have my education. It's coming back around soon. I have a house to keep up with. I have neighbors that are weird. I have to deal with them. I have a YouTube channel that I absolutely love, but it takes up a lot of my time. I run a D&D game campaign on Friday nights with my friends from high school. I have a lot going on, and like the little scraps of free time I get that aren't spent playing like a visual novel or another kind of game is me on my phone watching YouTube videos, listening to music, and we're just being there with my family, which, like, I don't get a lot of free time, like so little free time. I don't stop enough. I don't just sit and think enough. And that's what Hisao does in this story, and it's so beautiful to like have this image of him just laying on a rooftop and just really experiencing the world for like an hour and just not doing anything or thinking anything particular. You know how alien an idea that is to me? My brain's always going a million miles an hour. Even if I'm not doing anything, I want to. I reach out to want to listen to music. I want to watch a video. I want to like do writing, whether on paper or in my head. It's just go, 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 go for my brain all the time. And I love that. But I don't think I know how to really, really, really stop and just think for myself. I don't know how to be that kind of person. It's an alien concept to me, and there's something about it that I admire. Something I feel like I'm missing that the story highlights so well with Rin's. And so like I said, Rin's story is the one that I feel like is going to change me the most personally, because I think I want to try. I want to try and find those quiet moments. Don't necessarily have to be literally quiet, but just taking the time to be quiet and to not stuff my ears full of sounds for a little while. I don't think I even need to go anywhere special. I could just lay out in my deck in the backyard and just let myself be there. We live in a wonderful place with trees and birds and everything. And I've lived here for 2 years now, and have I actually let myself enjoy that? I don't think I have. So I think I need to do that more often. Not even like as a meditation. Like a lot of people call that meditation. I don't think I want it to be meditation. I just want it to be silence. And maybe that's what true meditation is supposed to be, but I've never thought of it like that. I just need to let myself go, and I think it's going to be one of the hardest things for me, like, as a person. And so I'm not sure. It might take a lot of practice, but I want to make it happen. And like I said, based on the conversations that they have, the captured moments and the vivid descriptions of some of the scenes, the struggles that Rin has as an artist, and trying to define like what is art and what does it mean and how does it mean. Like I said, it was a love letter, I think, to the reader. That the writer was expressing ideas that were almost beyond their own scope, which is why everything can feel so alien. It's because I think that we're really examining thought processes that are beyond just the casual. I think it's so deep that the artist didn't even have answers to what they were saying. Simply was stating the way things are for the person who made this, or other artists that draw and create and make something out of void. And it's an admirable quality. It's a quality I don't think I have, or at least not enough. I talk about, and I really want to set a goal and work on writing a book. Actually, I decided I think I want to shift my book to a visual novel. I love visual novels so much, and I think it'd be a great way to share it, but like, I wonder if I even have that capacity, the ability to really think about a story in a way that can really be captivating, like the ones I read here in Katawa Shoujo and Love and Steins Gate. There's something so deep to those stories beyond just world building. I got world building down to a T, but can I really craft an experience? I don't think I can. Not yet, anyway. It's something I'm gonna have to work on. Yeah, just you. I think you're right. Being able to like clear yourself and reset. I don't think I do that enough. It's something I probably should do, and I really want to do. Of course, I also need to make sure the freaking mosquitoes don't eat me alive. But yeah, so like, it's not really an announcement, but I do have intentions. I want to try and participate in NaNoWriMo this year, a challenge to write every day for the month of November. 50,000 words is probably going to be a stretch. I don't know if I can find the time to do that, but I want to commit to at least doing something. And so I'm going to start a visual novel version of the novel I've been doing, because the novel I've been writing up till now has all been brainstorming. It's all been world building, it's all been crafting in a few scenes, and I think it would actually make a good visual novel, but whether it comes or not, we'll have to see. I'd have to somehow pitch it to somebody who can also get artists and everything, so who knows if that'll ever happen, but I hope you'll cheer me on if I can make it happen. I'll hopefully give you guys updates and bring it to your attention, and maybe even share snippets and see what you think, just to kind of get some insight. I'll bring it up again actually, because like some of the people in the art, they're from that story, and I can tell you a little bit about them. But anyway, in summary for like Rin, I think Rin's story was the one that made me think the most, and it's probably the one that like I think everyone should read, but I really don't know if I felt much personal connection with Rin. I don't know, like I said, like Hanako is somebody I would want to get to know, but I don't think I could. I sadly don't know if I'd even want to get to know Rin in real life, though she's a fantastic person and is worth getting to know. I just don't know if I'd have the stamina to do it. Anyway, so what's my summary of Katawa Shoujo? I've said it a couple times, I'll say it again. It's a beauty. It's a gem amongst gemstones. It is something to be treasured, something to be appreciated for the hard work and the powerful impact this story has had on my life already. And again, if any of the people who made this ever listen to this, know that you've done something wonderful here. And I hope you've moved on to more projects that can do this type of thing, bringing good story, artwork, and just feeling to life. You do a good service for people. Yeah, John, you're right. You finished Rin, you had to think about it for an hour. I'm still thinking about it. I'll be thinking about it for a while now. But so overall, like, I don't do grading systems or numbers. I say it again and again, but like hands down, this will be one of the top things I'll recommend to people. Like, it's joining the shelf of Love, Steins Gate, and now Katawa Shoujo. Probably the first one I recommend. Doki Doki Literature Club is good, but the challenge of finding somebody who won't be like traumatized by it and who hasn't already had it spoiled for them makes it hard to like recommend. This one I'm going to recommend all the time to everybody, and I can't wait to hear what my friends have to say about it if they end up listening to me. Alright, now for the really... Oh, sorry, Mr. Microphone. Now for the really controversial stuff. There's really no such thing as best girl, but I have to put a list together for you guys, because I know it'll bug some of you until I do it. So, I'm gonna go with, first, like, character design, like cutest. Like, just, like, who did I think was the most adorable and cutest? Obviously, first place has to go to Hanako. I think her design is brilliant in every way. Second, I actually have to go to Emmy. I think she's adorable in her characterization. I like how she like, it's like she's cute and she knows it. She uses it, and it's really fun and clever to work with. Next, I'd probably say Shizune. It's interesting because like I've always liked long. It's like, again, I'm very polarized where I like long kind of flowing hair, but I'm also kind of a fan of the shorter hair. But it doesn't work for everybody. But her character design is good. Her dress styles are really flamboyant and diverse, which is really fun. So I think her design was really good. And I love the idea of somebody speaking someone's sign language. I think there's something really special with that. Then next I'd probably go with Lily, where she's just as poised and proper, and she's adorable. But I don't know, there's also nothing that really super stands out for me besides just her mannerisms, which are excellent. And then Rin. Rin needs to eat food. She's like unhealthily skinny, and it makes me feel like when he starts like describing her in the scenes, like I couldn't help but like partially feel bad, as well as feeling like she's cute, she is adorable, but she's also like oh, Rin, I don't know. So I hate putting her on the scale at all, but I have to. And then here's the list of like who was my favorite route. It also is the answer to who would I be most interested in being friends with, and it would be Shizune. Like, call me crazy, but remember, I really like people who are assertive and have drive and passion. I find that something that's very attractive. I find that something that's very like appealing in an individual, regardless of who you are or why. It's something I want to see more in myself. It's something I've become more since I was younger. I'm much more assertive than I used to be. And so it's something I also reflexively want to see in others. And I feel like that helps push me to be better. So I could absolutely see myself spending time with her. And I also think if I were to go to this school, I would find a struggling student council to be a very appealing option for me to spend my time in. Because there's something about like doing a job and knowing that you're doing a job that needs to be done and helping people and making a difference. I find it very, very like satisfying. Even if you never get thanked for it, knowing like how, remember how she took him around the stalls, and how the stalls they visited weren't just random stalls, but they were stalls that he still helped build. Like, that would have had my heart instantly, because that's the kind of thing that I actually get a genuine thrill from. Is like, they'll never say thank you, but knowing that I helped them is such a rush, and like something I am very like I love that feeling. And then of course we can't end this haul without saying best route goes to Kenji. Kenji's route, the one I found accidentally because I messed up and didn't get Hanako's route when I was trying to get Hanako's route, and I got the glorious, wonderful, drunken, crazy fools on the rooftop ending with Kenji. Oh man, no, not really. That was really fun though. You think I wasn't gonna mention Kenji in this whole thing? Oh my goodness, what a mess he is. I do think I kind of mentioned it, and someone kind of confirmed that a lot of other people think so too. I think that the secret weird relationship that the librarian Yuko had with a student was with Kenji, and I think that because of like the age gap and breakup and subsequent breakup is what drove Kenji kind of off the edge to be really like crazy. Because remember how he sneaks off to the library to like get books, because he doesn't want to run into her, and so that's why he like goes and steals the books rather than like going to the library. Because we also saw on the Lily Hanako route that he functions mostly in his classes, so he acts crazy in his private time, and he also avoids the library. So I think that's a lot of evidence to support it. Plus, there's lots of other little things that happen throughout the story, so they were totally item in my opinion. So that was really fun, and his rants were crazy. I read them all. But I have to admit, I kind of zoned out sometimes, because I was just like, this is that crazy neighbor that you just don't want to listen to anymore. But, I don't know. Kenji's great. No, so like, the ending I really enjoyed the most wasn't actually the Shizune. Like, I feel like there was so much left unsaid with Shizune, so I can't put that one as my favorite ending. I think the favorite ending is the Hanako, because it left a promise of more to come and a kind of resolution where we knew she was moving forward, Hisao was moving forward, and like far sweeter to me than their actual like their frolicking and coitus. It was her voluntarily throwing her arms around him and giving him a kiss. Like, I love how that was the ending, because it was like, it wasn't something she was doing for him, it was something she was doing for herself. And it was really like the capstone of her like whole story, of her taking her own life in her hands and moving forward finally with a trusted friend and boyfriend at her side. And it was so beautiful for me, and I like that ending was really like moving. So it's definitely gonna have to take the crown for the best ending in my opinion. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. That really sums up everything I have for this. I'm not quite done yet. Like I said, I want to talk a little bit more about the art that I am introducing to the channel, and if there's any questions you guys have, I'd like to take them now. And then I hear a lot of people watching the stream live. I know a lot of people are probably going to be asking stuff in post. Like comments in this video won't really work because it's live, but if you go to my Discord, you can always ask me questions there. I usually keep the chat room open. I call it it'll be called the Katawa Shoujo after party. So if you want to post something in there later on, absolutely do so. And also, it's a great time now that I finished everything. If you have any fun memes you want to send me, like absolutely post them there. I love it. One of the memes they sent was like a comic about Hisao like having heart attacks for every little tiny thing that happens in his life that has any significance, and it was really funny. So anything like that you want to share is more. Oh, and also I made a request in like episode like 4 or 5, because Emmy was talking about how she wanted to be a pirate and how she'd be perfect for it because she could have 2 peg legs. And I immediately turned and said, like, somebody please find me fan art of her being a pirate, and someone rose to the occasion and did so. Thank you, whoever you were, and I'll always want to see more fan art. I'm a big fan of it. And like the unintended pun right there. But I've always loved that stuff, and so that's kind of why I want to talk about the artwork now. So we're gonna hear the stuff in the background because I don't have any other music right now to put in the background. So anyway, so this is going to be the new end card art on everything. Next year, I plan on hiring somebody else, probably a different artist, unless I just can't get past this hunk of just amazingness. But I would like to have different styles on the channel. Once again, if you voluntarily want to draw art that's based on me or my characters, feel free to. I'd love to have it. There's a space you can share it on the Discord channel. I'll also share it on Twitter if you happen to send it to me there. But more importantly, I can even give you a shout out or a highlight. If you give me permission, I can use it as an end card because I'd love to showcase anything you guys feel like making. And it doesn't have to be about me and my characters either. It can also be about like stuff that's in the game, but just make sure it doesn't. Just make sure if at that time it wouldn't have any spoilers, and make sure it's yours. I will do checks. So like if it's not original work and you're stealing it from somebody else, like I'm gonna make sure that I look it up and check because I don't want people plagiarizing. So please respect artists more than that. Yeah. So this artwork is awesome. There's like a Kazuchi mech in the background. That was something that he'd never done anything like that before, and so that's what made it really take the longest time. We had a big debate, like not debate, but more like it took a week for me to decide what the color scheme was going to be. It's like, but I feel like it had to be blue. I mean, it's the blue shifting. So it's not as flashy as some of the others, but I really like it. I think it's very fitting, and I like the color scheme for it. So obviously there's me. It's so cool to see me in art of any kind, especially in an anime-esque style. It's like so fun. Oh, I love it. All right, and then the 2 characters. So the main guy, as I said before, he's Captain Yeager, though his real name is Ryan Stone. He is, in my book, a kind of like he profits himself as a pirate, though he's more of a con man. He just has like if you see in my normal like caricature that's on the channel right now, you see him standing in a flamboyant type of pirate outfit because in the visual novel or the book, like that's what he wears most of the time because it puts people off. And he's also like he's secretly a kind of a history nerd, and so like he's obsessed with Earth history, and so that's why he dresses up in like an old seafarer's like outfit. Because it's so weird and stands out, and people stare at him for it, and he loves that. He just loves like kind of being disruptive, and like he's the kind of person who'll like joke around a lot, so he's really fun. This is the first time I've ever seen her drawn. I had to describe her vividly to the artist, and I think he did a really good job capturing her in a style that I really approve of. Her name is Ivara. She is the main character of the book. Like Captain Yeager / Ryan Stone is a very, very prominent character but like when we come across him, he's kind of the mentor, more like he's somebody who's already got experience. And so while we watch him a lot and we see some things from his point of view, mostly the story is about interacting with him and other people on the ship. Ivara is actually the main character of the story. She's the one who has to kind of rise to the occasion and kind of find her place in the universe, and following her story and like her adventures as she joins his crew. Her style, her build, she's definitely like somebody who's like not super short, but on the shorter side. Longer hair, often tied back. Kind of a determined style. I really like how they captured him. Now, the one thing about this that is not quite, quote, authentic is the fact that in the Mud series, there's not a lot of people who are willing to smile, especially in the extra universe where they're obviously dressed as if they're part of. But I don't know. I like having happy characters, and at least Captain Yeager is cocky enough that he would probably laugh and make jokes while fighting the beta, despite how terrifying they were. But yeah, like I also I loved the when I was coming up with the idea, I wanted my characters to be pilots because they're kind of the stars of the show, and then I wanted me to be the person who's like in the command center, maybe like their coordinator, oh shoot, now I'm not gonna think of her name. They called her Mama. Gosh darn, I can't remember her name right now. It's getting too late. But like that would be me. Like I don't see myself as being someone who could be on the front lines. I mean, if I had to, I'm sure I could, but like that's not my strength. My strength would be on the behind the scenes, working in the background, making plans and trying to organize everything. So that's me. That's why I had him draw me in this style and in this uniform. But those two would definitely be pilots, and I don't know. It just was fun. It was fun describing things. One of the we only had to make a couple changes. The one change was the mech. We had a selection of colors. We were choosing between crimson. He brought up yellow, but I was like, we can't use yellow. No. It's a crimson purple, but I said we can't use purple because he literally made he made Meia's Takuma Kazuchi like perfectly without he used hers as a reference, but then forgot it wasn't that he forgot to change the colors, but he chose the color purple after he'd done the modeling because he thought it looked really good, because it does. But I was like, we can't have it be purple. As much as I love it, we can't. It's too iconic for the series. And he's like, oh, that's a good point. So it was we had a dark blue, a light blue, a crimson, and a yellow. And I was torn between the crimson and the dark blue, and we went with the blue after some consolidation and talking things out, because blue's my favorite color too. And so while it wouldn't stand out in the battlefield as much as Takuma Kazuchi probably should, I still think it's awesome, and so I love it. And then that's pretty much everything about it. I love this. I've never truly commissioned something before. Like even my caricature, I got them on a discount and I was really poor. So $50 is all I could afford. So it's pretty basic. This is full on art. This is something I spent money on this, and I don't regret it at all. So you'll be seeing it a lot because I'm gonna tote it around because I'm freaking proud of it. And then once again, just to wrap things up, I'm also we're going to be doing my Slaughtering of the Japanese Language compilation. I'm working on it. I'm hoping to have it out in a couple weeks, probably on a Saturday. It'll just be kind of published, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for those who contributed. I know Just For You has for sure. It hurt to go through all that footage again. Man, I'm surprised so many of you stuck through with me playing Muv-Luv, considering how badly I was slaughtering some of those words way in the beginning. Thankfully, I took some lessons and I've gotten a lot better. Not perfect by a long shot, but better. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. And no matter when you're watching this in the future, thank you for just being a part of this journey of being with me for another playthrough. And next week we'll start something new. I was gonna start it this week, but the art came in and I wanted to have a chance to show it off to people who like live and get some reactions. And then because I'm gonna start using it as my end card for everything, so it'll be on the end card on Monday for Fata Morgana. it stinks kind of putting it halfway through, but I don't really mind that much in the end. So it's going to be end of Fata Morgana, it's going to be end at Steins Gate 0, but the cat, the princess, Matters of the Heart is going to be the first one where it's going to be there on the first episode. So I'm really excited about that. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure having you, and pleasure just being a part of this channel and having you be here. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for your inputs, and until the next video you watch with me or happen to see me in next, I'll see you there.